I be like, sheesh, sunset on the beach. Make me wanna pull up on Miami with the heat. I don't know about you.
Welcome back to the Anytime Sports Podcast Show. I'm here, your co-host Colin here with my other co-host Andrew, and we're here to talk about some Super Bowl, after Super Bowl reactions and stuff like that. Well, let's start with the score, Andrew. A
Yeah.
lot of people would not have predicted this score, but one superstar, pop star, Tate McRae 2 years ago, when she was saying about the other Super Bowl, actually predicted this score. I saw it on TikTok today. Thought it was very funny. Thought I would bring it up in the first minute of the show. But the Eagles end up winning this one 40-22. Wow, this was not really much of a competitive game, Andrew.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to you first. What were your thoughts on the game itself?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people loved seeing the Chiefs get dominated, but realistically, it wasn't the most competitive game, kind of like you said. But my thoughts on the game is Patrick Mahomes probably had the worst performance of his career, arguably. 2 picks in the Super Bowl, the biggest game. Looking to go three-peat. That doesn't happen. So many miscues, so many drop balls. Travis Kelce dropped 2 balls. He had 1 reception and then stat padded toward the end of the game. Same with D-Hop. He dropped a crucial catch. Saquon didn't have the biggest game that people thought he would. The Chiefs actually stopped Saquon pretty good. But the Eagles are so well-rounded that didn't matter at all. They spread out their pass game really good, and they had a well-balanced team. Their defensive line performance is probably one of the best defensive line performances I've ever seen. The Chiefs couldn't get more than 49 rushing yards off. And the top rusher in that game was Patrick Mahomes. Their running backs had 9 yards, 8 yards, and 7 yards. That is great. They did not run the ball at all, and I don't blame them. That Eagles D-line was amazing. But yeah, this game was great, and the Eagles side bad, and the Chiefs side bad if you're watching it as a spectator and want a competitive game. But we did see the Chiefs get blown out pretty good.
I think the problem was for the Chiefs, they didn't really establish the run game. As you were mentioning, their running backs really never showed up in this game. They needed to establish it early to relieve some of that pressure off of Mahomes. He was feeling the pressure all game long, and it really never changed from first half to second half. Maybe we thought he would go into halftime and make some change, make some adjustments, but you were just down too much to you have to throw the ball in the second half. Mahomes was 21 of 32 for 257 yards, 3 TDs, 2 interceptions. I think going into halftime, he had one of the worst stats that a quarterback has ever had in the Super Bowl. Halfway through the game, I thought, hey, are we the Bears going to lose a record for the worst quarterback performance in the NFL? I thought, hey, Patrick Mahomes could take that over from Rex Grossman. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Why not? I'd give him that. He had a couple interceptions. This one's definitely were bad interceptions. Jalen Hurts has a bad interception, too. That one was really bad when they had an all-out pressure. He got rid of the ball, underthrew it, and it was picked off by the Chiefs. But he is the story. He is our Super Bowl MVP, Andrew. He was 17 of 22 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. And he was the leading rusher on the team, 11 carries, 72 yards. He is our Super Bowl MVP. What were your thoughts on Jalen Hurts and his career so far to get to this point?
Yeah, he's developed great. He's developed as a great passer, arguably one of the best passers in the league right now. And he can use his legs too. He's not necessarily like a Lamar where he needs to use his legs all the time and can use them in ways like Lamar and Jaden Daniels can. He doesn't necessarily have the greatest arm talent like a guy like, say, Justin Herbert, say a guy like Patrick Mahomes if he played like he normally has. Jalen Hurts has got, I think he's in his own category because he's got that great arm talent. He doesn't have exceptional arm talent. This game it was exceptional. And he's got that bit of elusiveness when he runs, kind of like a Caleb Williams. Like, he can run, he can break some tackles, he can get into open space, gain extra yards, pick up speed, which is what he did in this game, and it was very balanced. He had some very great, accurate throws, and he had one throw early in the game to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown stopped on the sideline, perfectly placed into his arms. Perfect throw at the end of the game, or towards the end of the game, to Devontae Smith to put the dagger in this one.
He makes such perfect, beautiful, over-the-top balls. He made a couple throws in the game where I was like, wow. Like, Jalen Hurts, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Like, almost had to turn this piece of paper over, write an apology letter to him.
Yeah.
He had some throws there that were absolutely amazing. And I think it means more knowing his story from Alabama to getting replaced by Tua to going to Oklahoma, overcoming that, being a second round draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody thinks you are the guy. You aren't the guy going into the Super Bowl. You are doubted. You already lost the Super Bowl to Patrick Mahomes, and you come out and you have this performance, Super Bowl MVP. You saw the Nike commercial. I don't know if you saw that Nike commercial after the game, doubting him, but I thought that was a great commercial. But you can't help but to feel happy for the man himself. You know, he's put in the work, he's put in the effort. I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But let's go to some other performances during the game. Saquon Barkley at 25 carries, 57 yards. He had 6 receptions for 40 yards, but was really kept to a minimum in this game. It's kind of what I thought was going to happen. They were just going to take him out of the game, but he ends up getting a ring, so that heals some wounds, but he doesn't get into the end zone. Do you think that really matters for someone like Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, I don't think it matters to him. He's that type of player. Like, as long as I win, he's not really that selfish type of player. He's a really wholehearted player, wants the team to win kind of guy.
May I remind you of another unselfish running back that didn't get into the end zone that we know very well? The 85 Bears, Walter Payton does not get into the end zone. It was very disheartening for Walter Payton.
Yeah.
Kind of the same style of running back we see with Saquon Barkley. He kind of has the elusiveness of Walter Payton. I think publicly he's going to say it doesn't matter, but a little deep down there, he would want to get in the end zone. Who wouldn't want to get in the end zone, especially with his career? I think it might a little bit. If I was in that situation and I was that talented of a running back, which I am not that talented of a running back, but with his resume and the amount of doubt he's gone throughout his career, throughout New York, then coming to Philadelphia, I don't know. I'd feel a little certain way. I don't know about you, Andrew.
Yeah, I could see it from his point of view because you did have that journey and not getting one done in the Super Bowl. But I don't think it hurts as bad for him considering the year he put on this past year, one of the arguably the best running back performances of all time. And potentially could do that again next year. And in this system, on this great team, the Super Bowl, we're going to be running Super Bowl champions next year. We can see him bounce back. But like in this game, the Chiefs contained him really well. But all that did is opened up the passing game, opened up Jalen Hurts' run game, opened up a lot more holes for the Eagles to plow through. And the Chiefs probably came into this game knowing, hey, we got to contain Saquon Barkley because that's what he did best in the NFC Championship game. And they did that, but then that just opens up the rest of the field more for the rest of the team.
Yeah, very much so. Very ironic that both the quarterbacks are their leading rushers at the end of this game. Mahomes at 4 carries for 25 yards. Hurts, 11 carries, 72 yards and touchdown. We talked about that already. Going on to the Chiefs side of the ball, Worthy was their leading receiver. Their rookie wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, many had thought to just be a gadget guy, but during the Super Bowl, he did prove to be more than a gadget guy. He had 8 receptions, 157 yards, 2 TDs. If they would have won the game, definitely would have been him as the MVP in this one. But Travis Kelce, 4 receptions, 39 yards. Are we seeing the last of Travis Kelce?
I don't see a reason why he needs to play anymore. He'll probably play next year if I had to guess because he has the girlfriend. He has the $100 million podcast sponsorship. He has 3 rings now. 2 back-to-back ones say that. And then they got 5 in a row AFC championships. But I don't see a reason for him to play anymore. He's getting older. Why would you want to get beat up like this? Why would you want to play anymore? Because you have everything you want. He's got the money. He's got everything. But we could see him pushing. Maybe he wants to end his career on a Super Bowl victory. If you are, I've heard about this. If you are Travis Kelce, you're getting towards the end of it. And if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you know he's banged up. He seems noticeably slower than he used to be. Yeah.
He is at that age where he is slowing down. If you convince him to say, hey, just hang up the cleats, man, we'll be fine. You have more money to spend on some players that could rebuild this roster. You need another offensive lineman, that is for sure.
Yeah.
Their offensive line isn't the best in the league. To what people believe it is the best in the league, it's not as good as you think it is. The Eagles had a much better offensive line as the best offensive line in the league, in my opinion.
I was going to say something real quick. I was going to say they are also probably one of the oldest teams in the league. They do have Xavier Worthy. but he's their youngest players. Their running back.
They have Rashid Rice, so he'll
Yeah,
come off of an injury. So you have your wide receivers there of the future. You have
yeah,
Worthy and you have Rice. They're going to probably have to draft another tight end.
yeah,
Noah Gray is a decent tight end, but I don't think he's going to be replacing Travis Kelsey as well as
yeah.
we might think so. Sorry, I have a hiccup.
No, you're good. I was gonna say they have a lot of older players. Mahomes is still not even 30 yet, so he's got like 10 years to go. But he's still on the older side. You don't have to replace him just yet. You have Kareem Hunt as your lead running back this season. Pacheco is gonna have that future there. He just can't keep his injuries keep piling up. Receivers you need to address too. Like you said, you have Worthy and Rice, but you have D Hop who's a filler guy. He could potentially come back next year. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's an older guy too. And they have some older assets on defense, with like Chris Jones potentially, and getting older, and you have a lot of older assets. But as long as they're able to add some young assets, I don't doubt Andy Reid's ability to coach him up.
Yeah, I think they kind of need to go a little bit young on the receiving core. I think their receiving core is a little bit too old as
Yeah,
well. I think they retain maybe one or two of those guys. Actually, I think maybe one of the older guys and really go young with the receiving core. I think that's what they'll end up doing. But this team will only go as far as Andy Reid's the coach. Let's be honest. Andy
yeah,
Reid is no spring chicken. So he's already towards the end of his coaching career. It looks like he's going to be coaching for a couple more years. We don't know yet. I mean, we're not him, so we don't know how long he's planning on coaching. But that's also another thing to take into account. Um, do you think the Chiefs dynasty is over?
I don't know. It's hard to judge it because they had a very iffy season. A lot of people knew that. They did go 15-2 in the regular season, which is very hard to do. Um, but if we take a look at some of their wins, about 90% of those wins were within one score. Baltimore week 1 was a toe away. Like Isaiah Likely's like millimeter away from the Ravens winning that game. Bengals they lost. They beat the Bengals by 3. They beat the Saints by like 10 points earlier in the season, and even we saw it later in the season. They got a close game with the Chargers, close game with the Raiders, one score with the Carolina Panthers. Their loss was to the Buffalo Bills, one of the best teams. They had a pretty simple schedule this year. Their most difficult opponent they beat was the Texans, and then the Steelers toward the end of the season. So they had an easy schedule and close games for this past season. But I think to say the dynasty's over is a slight overreaction. But if you would have said that last year or a couple years ago, I think that would have been more of overreaction. But I think we're kind of nearing the end of the dynasty. I think this was probably a downhill slope on the dynasty. We could see Travis Kelsey leaving, a big portion of leadership leaving after this year, and especially this loss. We could see it going on the down low, but I think as long as Andy Reid's there, they're going to be in that top 3 teams in the league contention. I think, but who knows what next year has in store, especially if they have more difficult opponents on the horizon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think their dynasty is over by any means, but I think in that division it's getting better than what it used to be. I mean, Denver's up on the up and up right now. We think the Raiders are going to be a little bit better under Pete Carroll. And you have the Chargers in second year in Harbaugh. So your division's getting better. Their conference is very hard, so it's very competitive. They've had the edge over other competitors in the AFC in recent years, but I think their Achilles heel is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Let's switch more to the Philadelphia side of things because they're a little dangerous to talk about.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone really coming up on contract that needs to extend major money.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that the GM of the Eagles calls up the Browns and says, hey, here's 2 first-round picks. We'll take Myles Garrett off your hands.
Mm-hmm.
That would be insane. I know it doesn't make much sense because the Eagles have such a good defensive line, really. But if you add Myles Garrett, I mean, it's going to take the right price. They're not going to give him so much up for.
Yeah.
for Myles Garrett, but I definitely make the call. I think every team is making the call for Myles Garrett. I'm sure we'll talk about it later in our news segment. But as one of our players who wanting to make the trade, that was announced this week.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to talk about it. We didn't have an episode last week, so we're doing this one this week. But that would be an interesting situation. And the Eagles are not going anywhere. They got a great offensive line, a great running back. You know, it's always injury dependent as well, but that's with every team as well.
Yeah.
Their only real competition right now in the division is Washington. Would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I want to touch on how young this team is, first off, because you got the leader, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is only, he's 26 years old, super young for a quarterback. He has a lot of experience, too. He has 5 years in the league, 2 of those years being to the Super Bowl. Because he got a lot of experience. He's not slowing down anytime soon. Saquon Barkley, the best running back in the league. He's got probably 5 more years. He's 28, probably 5 more years running back terms, depending injuries. Devontae Smith, super young too. He's 26. He's had 4 years in the league, including 2 Super Bowls. AJ Brown, he's still on the younger side. He's 27. No, your receiving core is basically set. If you re-sign these guys, Jahan Dotson had a crucial catch in the game for a touchdown. He's 24, super young. They're making it work, and these guys are all clicking. So Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Jahan Dotson, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts are all under 30 years old by at least 2 years.
As of 2024, the average age of the Philadelphia Eagles roster is 25.6 years old.
Yeah.
So it's very young. I mean, that's a very good average age. If I have to
I'm gonna say
something about that.
If we're not gonna even touch on the defense, you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, 27. You have Cooper DeJean making one of the most crucial plays in the game, the pick 6. He was a rookie this past year. You have Reed Blankenship. He's in his second year, or no, he's in his third season. He's 25 years old. You have such crucial assets on the defense. Like you said, bringing in a guy like Myles Garrett, considering like you said, your average age is 25 years old. I don't think it's an overreaction to say the Eagles are a spot where he wants to land. He wants to go to a Super Bowl contender. What other team is a Super Bowl contender other than the Eagles? The only thing that concerns me about them is the age of their offensive line. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league, but they're only getting older. Mailata's getting older. These guys are getting older that have been there for a while, but they do have that experience and they have great depth.
How old are they?
What did you say?
Did he go over the age of the offensive line?
No, I'm gonna look at that real quick. But I would say the Eagles are such a young team, and if I was the Eagles owners, I wouldn't have a problem going for Myles Garrett, like you were saying. Okay, let me look at the age. Lane Johnson, he's a bit older. He is 34 years old. He's on the older side. You got Jordan Mailata. He is 27. You have Brett Toth, 28. Lane Johnson's the oldest at 34. And then you got 27, 25. So they do have some young pieces. The guards are 24, 24, 26,
27,
25.
25.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have to replace the 34-year-old pretty soon. But,
yeah.
I mean, they're still pretty fairly in their prime of their career right now. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think you're going to need to worry about it. Of course, you're worrying about injuries, too, because injuries always happen, and they're very unpredictable in the season. But let's talk about some defensive performances.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So the Eagles finished the day with 6 sacks total. Yeah. Absolutely insane. Josh Sweat, 2.5 sacks himself. Milton Williams, he had 2 sacks. A sack went to Jordan Davis as well. A half a sack to Hunt, and that's all the sacks. But as you mentioned earlier, you had a pick 6 by Cooper DeJean, which was a pretty pivotal moment to help extend the lead to 17.
Yeah. Because like we were saying earlier, this defense is so young, and they're just all clicking on all cylinders. You got Jalen Carter and you got Jordan Davis. These 2 guys on the defensive line are so young, and Myles Garrett seems so appetizing for them. But this backfield too, Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean, they're lights out back there. And then you got Quinyon Mitchell back there, and nothing's stopping them. All these players are within 3 years in the league. They have so much experience. And there's nothing that's going to slow them down, I think, but except injuries. We saw that with the Lions this year. But if they can stay healthy, they're probably the favorite for the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at the odds. I think the odds will probably say Kansas City's the favorite right now, but I think the Eagles would probably be there in a close second or first. I haven't looked at the odds at all for next season. But yeah, I think that might be the case. We can move on to some NFL news. I think we've talked about a lot about the Super Bowl already.
Yes.
We mentioned Myles Garrett requesting a trade out of Cleveland in a very classy manner. Where do you see Myles Garrett being the best fit? Because it seems like he wants to win a Super Bowl and he wants to win it now.
We were talking about the Eagles. For all the spots I see him landing, the Eagles aren't like the most favored out of that. I've seen the Packers. The Packers are in contention. I don't know.
Washington, I've heard
Washington. That's a big
Washington's probably the most interesting situation and probably the most likely because they really need a pass rusher right now. And if you're Cleveland, you're not going to really want to trade him to an AFC team. So you're really going to want to trade him to an NFC team. And Washington makes the most sense there. I mean, if you're the Lions, you could ask about that as well. Aiden Hutchinson and Myles Garrett would be an insane combo.
I agree with that too. I do like Washington. Detroit, another team that sticks out to me. They're not necessarily contenders. Arizona, they're always looking for the other help there. I've seen the Bears thrown around as a Bears fan. I don't know if I like it. You got a lot of assets to build. Myles Garrett would be insane to put on the other side of Montez Sweat. But at the same time, that's a lot of money to spend when you need to build that depth at the line. The Eagles, Chargers are a good contender too. Joey Bosa is always injury prone. Khalil Mack is getting a little older. You could put him on the Chargers. I think I don't know if he'd want to go to a team like the Falcons or the Patriots, but those teams also need a good defensive player. We could see him. He's going to want to go to a contender, so probably a team more like the Eagles, the Commanders, I don't want to say it, but the Bears or the Lions, I think are the most likely landing spots for him. But the price for him is so high.
You can't call the Bears a contender yet. We haven't even seen a new coach come in yet.
That's what the media. That's what the media is saying.
Hey, we cannot crown ourselves Super Bowl champions before it's even started this season.
Yeah.
So us Bears fans need to chillax right now. We can't call a Super Bowl right now. We can call a Super Bowl on draft day. That's when we'll call. All right, let's talk about the Saints head coach hiring Kellen Moore. So this is one of the worst NFL. Do you want to look up the dead cap money that the Saints have right now while I search up? While I talk about Kellen Moore, he's a great guy, and I think he's a great coach. Very good offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles when they won a Super Bowl this past season. So I think his resume speaks for itself. He runs a very good offense, so I think that won't be the problem. The fact that they don't have a quarterback is a little interesting, and the fact that they don't have any cap space to really sign anyone. They keep deferring their money later and later every single year to enable to get more money to spend in the cap. But do you have the dead cap situation?
Yes, they are paying $48 million for 7 players that aren't on the roster.
I'll take $1 million.
$31 million to Marshawn Lattimore, $9 million to Slant Boy Michael Thomas, and $7 million to Jameis Winston. That's
all
insane.
Guys that are not on the team right now. They're paying a lot of guys that are not on the team right now.
Yes, that is not the spot you want to be in if you're trying to build a team. You also got Marcus May getting $8 million, and then you got James Hurts getting $2 million, Bradley Roby. So a bunch of these no-name guys, Traquan Smith getting $1 million. There's a lot of players out there that are still getting a little sum of money that aren't even on the Saints, but you deferred all this money, $48 million, that is.
So do you really temper your expectations for the Saints team knowing that they have this much money and they don't really have a great team? They have an aging defense. We've always seen their defense has been pretty decent.
Yeah.
But their defense is aging right now. They're spending a bunch of money, a lot of dead cap. I don't see this team doing very well, especially since you have the rise of Michael Penix, potential rise of Michael Penix. You have the Baker Mayfield-led Buccaneers, and who I'm blanking. And
Bryce Young.
the Carolina Panthers,
Yeah.
Bryce Young. How could I forget? And Bryce Young looks pretty good and looks like he's going to have a 30-year jump.
Yeah.
So, what expectations do you have for a guy like Kellen Mond?
He's got so much pressure on him. Like you were saying, the window is closing because the Bucks are probably going to be dominated in this league, in this division for the next couple of years. And like you said, Michael Penix, he played great in the end of the year. Bryce Young in a great second half of the year. And then you have a guy like Derek Carr. Is he going to be there after this season? He's too injury prone. Who's your backup? Who's going to be your future? You're going to draft a quarterback? You're going to wait till next year to draft a quarterback? Maybe get a guy like Arch Manning. What are you going to do? And this is Kellen Moore's responsibility. And how are you going to do that with $48 million in dead cap? That leaves you nothing. You got an aging Alvin Kamara. You got an aging Cam Jordan. Aging Tyrann Mathieu on defense. Derek Carr, like I just said, he's not going to be there. You got Chris Olave, so you got talent there. But there's just so much else to build on this team. I don't know if it's going to happen. And with this division, all these teams are getting younger. Michael Penix was a rookie last year. Bryce Young, a second-year player, he had a good second year. And Baker Mayfield's still younger. This is going to be a rough go at it for them, and I don't know if anything's going to be on the up and up for them, especially they had a long losing streak during the season. I think 7 to 8 games in a row, and then they finished off the season with 4 losses in a row. That's not what you want to be at, especially bring a new head coach in.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that situation. I think I've said a lot of things about Kellen Moore. Let's go with some other news. Zaire Franklin believes if the Colts add a dynamic player, their defense could be an all-time unit. Is this a play to try to get Myles Garrett to come where and be an Indianapolis Colts? Could you believe it?
No way he's going to want to do that. The Colts have so many holes. Anthony Richardson isn't proven on offense. The defense is so spotty, and it's been spotty these past years. They got rid of some key assets there.
I will not take the Colts seriously
Yeah.
until they decide to run a wildcat with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. That's when I'll take this offense seriously.
Yeah.
They got 2 running backs back there.
Yeah. I don't think so. And another piece of news that I don't think we covered last time was Cooper Kupp. The Rams said they're going to trade him. He didn't know about that. They informed him that he's going to be traded. There's a couple teams out there that stick out there to me where he's going to land. The big one to me is the Commanders. They have a lot of old players on the team. And what can you benefit off of a guy like Cooper Kupp who has so many years in the league? You can benefit so much more off of for your young receivers. They have like Austin Eckler. They have a guy. They have older guys on the roster. So I say you put Cooper Kupp on that team. They're contenders. And there you go. But another team potentially I think could be the Chargers. Chargers need an older guy for a very deserted receiving room. But I don't know. Where other spots do you think he could land?
He doesn't get traded. He's too much money and an aging receiver that can't stay healthy. He's past his prime. He's really got. He doesn't. I don't even think he's got a year left. He's very. You could tell he's not the same player as he was before. And his cap hit is extraordinary. And the Rams were trying to push him away and get him off the books last year. So they're going to have to cut him. I think they don't get any trade done because they don't want to retain money. So I think they cut him. And I think Cooper Kupp ends up signing somewhere like, I don't know. I see him signing with the Cincinnati Bengals.
I could see that, yeah.
I see him being the slot wide receiver in Cincinnati, and they run with Higgins, Chase, and Kupp for a year and see how that goes. I don't know if Higgins will be on the move. There's already some talks that stuff might change because they cannot extend some of the guys in Cincinnati because they refuse to pay some players. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens, but I think he's too much money to trade, and I don't think a team will be willing to take on his contract for a season. I don't think he'll be traded. I think he'll have to be cut by the by the Rams. If he's going to move anywhere, it's going to be that way.
Yeah, I could see that also. So we'll see some free agency opens up, I believe March 12th, and then the draft is the end of April. So we have a bit of ways to go until that opens up, but that'll be interesting to track to see who lands where. Any other NFL news you think we should cover? Yeah, T
Look,
Higgins. Oh,
well, a
you're
guy we didn't talk about. So we talked about. I don't think we talked about this, but Aaron Rodgers
Oh yeah.
is not going to be a Jet anymore. It's been announced. He thought he might have been the coach, but it really seems like who's their new head coach? I'm blanking on his name.
Lions DC. Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was thinking it and I just couldn't remember it. Aaron Glenn. He wants to start new. There was reports coming out that he didn't want to deal with Aaron Rodgers going forward to build his culture. He witnessed the culture in Detroit turning around that program from a perennial loser to a perennial playoff contender. So
Yeah.
he knows what it takes to set a culture, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers feels that. Now, where does Aaron Rodgers go? To me, it makes the most sense that he goes to Tennessee,
Okay.
but I don't know if that may be the exact. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers will play. I think that might have been the last year we see Aaron Rodgers in the NFL. I don't think it moves the needle. He's like a 15th best, 15th, 16th best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he moves the needle and helps the team win a Super Bowl. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree with you of him going to Tennessee. I think he's done in the league. He's 40 years old. He's old. He's got one more year, if that. Him, Stafford are the older guys in the league. Stafford's got a couple more years. But Rodgers, I agree with you to Tennessee. I think that they're gonna draft Cam Ward. I think that they're gonna need a mentor, a very experienced mentor for a young quarterback. Who else to do that but Aaron Rodgers? You have other veterans out there that you could sign potentially cheaper than Rodgers. You have Kirk Cousins. He's out there. You have some of these other guys you could bring in, but I think Tennessee needs to bring in an older guy to kind of mentor the young guy they're going to bring in and for the future. And what better to do that, like I said, with Aaron Rodgers. But I think the likely possibility is he retires. I don't see why else he has to play unless he wants to kind of get to another Super Bowl. But obviously that was a struggle in the latter half of his career. But also he had a rough go at it with the Jets. He sat out a year, and then this year they were winning, they were losing, they were back and forth, and then they turned out awful. He fired the coach basically, and he took over the team. Now he's not going to be there anymore. Aaron Glenn wants a culture rebuild. I think Rodgers retires. Where do you think he's going to go? You said Tennessee, but is there any other teams that stick out to you?
Yeah, there's definitely a team in the Bahamas that, where he can have his ayahuasca retreat.
Yeah.
Down there. I think that's the team he ends up going with at the end of the season. No, but like if it is for real, if it is the end, he's had a historic career and definitely a Hall of Fame career. He's won a Super Bowl, been a multiple time MVP, and tortured the Bears for many, many years.
Yeah.
So to see him gone, I mean, he's another guy that he's very polarizing for the NFL, but he gets people watching. He will be missed, but the show goes on, as they say. The GOAT, Tom Brady, retired, and it moved on from him. So it will move on from every single NFL player.
Yeah. I agree with you. And other NFL news, really, there's no other information. The logo is released for Super Bowl LX, which is next year in San Francisco. That should be interesting. Other than that,
okay, Super Bowl predictions, Andrew. Way too soon. Super Bowl predictions.
I had one the other day. It seems let's do a logistical smart pick, and then we can do dark horse Super Bowl pick.
Nah. This is your
Okay.
This is
Okay.
your take it to the bank. This is
Okay.
your Super Bowl right now.
I think it's going to be the Eagles are returning again, and it's going to be the Eagles versus the Bills. I think that every year it's like the Bills gonna do it this year, they're gonna do it this year. It's every year they don't get it done, but for some reason I think that next year's gonna be that year. They're gonna hit the Chiefs at the right time when they're down from that Super Bowl loss. They're trying to rebuild the team. The Ravens never get it done in the playoffs. The Texans, I think, are still a couple years out. As for the NFC, I think the Commanders are still a couple years out. Jaden Daniels played great, but I don't think they can beat a team like the Eagles. I think that the Lions are going to struggle because of their loss of coordinators. Dan Campbell can develop coordinators, don't get me wrong, but two coordinators leading their team to the Super Bowl in their first year as at that role doesn't seem that logical to me, especially with the Eagles in the playoffs. I don't think the Vikings are going to do anything. I don't think the Packers are going to do anything in the playoffs. All these top teams in the NFC, I don't think they're going to compete with the Eagles. And the Bills, I think they're going to get it done this year. Next year. But yeah.
Chicago and Jacksonville. I can't even.
Oh my gosh.
I was trying to, as you were saying it, I was trying to talk myself into saying a Bears Super Bowl, but I cannot do that with just thinking.
Yeah.
I really think in the NFC, it'll be Philadelphia or it will be Washington.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a rematch in the NFC Championship game. And I'm going to say Philadelphia wins it right now.
Okay.
Then in the AFC Championship game, I have Baltimore and Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. I have the Chiefs. I think they're going to slow down a little bit, and I think they won't make the AFC Championship game. I think years of being in there in a row, some fatigue, maybe get in some.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be an AFC Championship like that. I'm going to take Buffalo right now to win that game. So I have a Buffalo Philadelphia final. And I have Philadelphia winning that one.
Yeah, I would take Philadelphia as well, but I think it would be a closer game than this past Super Bowl was. I think the Bills are going to have a great year next year, but that's injury depending because say the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't wish this on anyone, but say Saquon gets hurt, say James Cook gets hurt, say Josh Allen gets hurt, say some of these guys get hurt, then that's out. But I don't
watching the game.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl this past Sunday. Did you have the feeling when I was watching the game, I was like, if Josh Allen was in this game right now,
yeah,
he would be trying everything to win this game. It just seemed like Mahomes, he definitely tried his hardest, but it feels like, because when the pocket broke down and everything like that, Josh Allen would have been way more effective in this game against this pass rush than Mahomes would have been, and it would have felt like Elway's last shot to get a Super Bowl, or his shot to get a Super Bowl when he bulldozed somebody and dove into the end zone. It feels like he would try that hard to get it done because he hadn't been there before, and he's come up close so many times. I feel like it would have been a little different.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Bills and Josh Allen, I think, is more talented than Patrick Mahomes. Not to say Patrick Mahomes isn't talented. I think Josh Allen has those spark plays that the team needs to build up momentum. I think they have a better defense as well. And I think that they would have put on a better performance than the Chiefs would have. And I think that this game would have been, more people would have been rooting for the AFC team than the Eagles this year because everyone wanted to see the Chiefs lose. But I think that, Josh Allen would have put on a better performance, and I think he could have very well beat the Eagles in this game, where this game would have been a one-possession game. But yeah, I totally agree with you there.
All right. I think we've talked about everything we've wanted to talk about in this episode of the Anytime Sports Podcast. Yes. Next week, we're going to look to have a guest, probably Buzz on we were talking about. We'll ask him as well. But expect a Patriots deep dive, a breakdown next week. We'll be going over that. That would be really cool to talk about. Andrew, you got anything else to say?
Yeah, we're looking forward to some off-season content. Colin has a friend that's come out. We're going to do some Bengals deep dive. Maybe we'll do a Bears deep dive episode with us and some of our other Bears fan friends. We could do some mock drafts. So we're going to try to keep this content up and going, get you hyped for the draft, get hyped for the next season. Free agency in about a month, and then draft will be here. And then, we'll have a lot of off-season content. So stay tuned. A lot coming, a lot of good takes, a lot of interesting takes. And it'll be cool to do a deep dive into some different teams that we normally don't talk about.
All right, this has been the Anytime Sports Podcast Show, and we'll talk to you all later.
Peace.
That makes us stronger. Our work is never over. That makes us stronger. Our work is never over.